Hi, everyone. Good evening. Carl Steinbeck here. More coverage on the Florida versus Donna Adelson murder case down there in Tallahassee, Leon County. Donna Adelson, this 75-year-old grandmother, mother of convicted murderer of Professor Dan Markell, FSU law professor, back in 2014. She's on trial for the exact same charges that her son was convicted on just about a year and a half ago. And she got swooped up trying to flee the country with her husband, Harvey, about less than a week after Charlie was convicted by a Tallahassee jury there. And as it turns out, she is scheduled to go to trial August 19th, next month. And she's been in there 20 months already, locked up without any bail, can't post bond on a murder case like this in Florida. And she's tried, and she tried to come up with compelling reasons why the judge should do so to release her home confinement, but there's no way the judge was going to let that happen on this particular case, especially since she was trying to flee the country. So there was a hearing today, and we're going to jump right into that. So, and I'm going to cover a few more things on this. I'm not going to cover the interview of Wendy Adelson tonight. We'll do that again probably tomorrow night. So there's more to cover on that. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. This is what happened today. I'm copying it from Law and Crime. And after this, I'll answer your questions. Put your questions out in a red emoji. That's the easiest way for me to see them. And we'll go from here. That's Josh Delman closest to us. Wendy Donna is in the middle, talking to Jackie Fulford, the other lawyer. There's some conflict issue I want to talk about tonight as well. Donna doesn't look anything like the way she looked when she first got arrested 20 months ago.
All right. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Stephen Never presiding.
No, good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Judge Stephen Everett, judge over the trial of Charlie Adelson.
We're here this afternoon in State versus Donna Adelson, 2023 CF 3226. Two motions we're here for this afternoon would be the defense's motion to compel and also the defense's motion to extend previously ordered deadlines for witnesses, exhibits, and pretrial motions in completing discovery. Part of the reason I believe we need to have a hearing on these matters as well, and I'll let you make your argument in just a moment, Mr. Zellman. Have you discussed with your client specifically as it relates to the raw data that you are seeking, specifically for Charles Adelson and herself, that this has the potential to reopening the door of the conflict?
Yeah. So just keep in mind, the conflict was at Donna's original counsel from 2016. Keep in mind, she wasn't charged till 20 months ago, but original conflict, Daniel Roshbaum of Miami area, was her counsel all the way up until the time Charlie Adelson got arrested. And at that time, he jumped over and took over to represent Charlie as well. And he still kept tabs with Don as well. So he's representing two co-conspirators for a murder, which is really an unprecedented thing as a lawyer to do. You want to just focus on the one client, because if you have more than one and they're both accused of doing the same thing, one of them may want to flip on the other. One of them may not be as guilty as the other. There's all kinds of different dynamics that can wind up blowing up in your face. And anyway, Roshbaum made a lot of money off these Adelsons. And as it turns out, he had to withdraw from Donna's case the day of the trial because Charlie's appellate lawyer said, Charlie's not waiving that conflict anymore. So it was a conflict I've been raising every month, multiple times, almost every week. It seemed like saying, like, you know what, they have not vetted this conflict issue out. It's gonna have something blow up in their face down the road. And as it turns out, she never got to trial. Then she had to turn out and hire these two other lawyers, this Zellman and Fulford. So all the stuff that Rashbaum did, because he also represented Charlie, anything having to do with Charlie is conflicted. And if this current defense team looks at that stuff, anything from Charlie Adelson's team and their work product, they can also be conflicted. So it's sort of like a nuclear waste kind of thing. You can't go near the nuclear waste from previous counsel, otherwise that can have a spillover effect, and you become radioactive as well. So that's what the judge is concerned about. The prosecution was totally oblivious to all this constitutional crisis they had going on with these conflicts, and they believe that they had no choice but to let whoever Donna wants as their lawyer and Charlie wants as a lawyer. They have no ability to intervene, but the Supreme Court has case law that says no, you can intervene. The judge can, to shut it down when you have conflicted counsel. And if it's a constitutionally conflicted counsel that you're talking about, then yeah, you can order them off the case. And that's exactly what Judge Everett finally did after getting duped, bamboozled, and gaslit by what was going on behind the scenes there with these counsel and their conflicts, and the prosecutor not alerting the judge beforehand as soon as Charlie was first represented by Rashbaum. So anyway, let's go ahead and continue on here. But it's like the gift that keeps giving.
Your Honor, I don't think that it would. It's in the same category as the emails that Your Honor authorized us to obtain in April, the raw, unredacted, unfiltered emails from our client's own account.
While they are certainly discoverable, and while you have an interest in using them to prepare for, the question remains, have you discussed with your client the possibility of this reopening the door to any conflicts?
No, we have not, because I don't think that it would reopen the door.
Very well.
Well, yeah, and so far these lawyers don't understand conflicts. The prosecution hasn't understood them. The defense didn't understand them. The appellate counsel sure did for Charlie Adelson, Ufferman. So I don't have any trust that these guys know a conflict crisis when it hits them in the head.
Well, you may make your argument.
So, Your Honor, you may recall a number of times we've been before the court, and the defense, and as laid out in the motion to compel, we have been asking for the raw, unredacted downloads, the emails, and we were repeatedly told that had been provided to us. When we were able to retain an independent forensic data expert and provided them with the materials that we had been provided, we were informed that those are not the raw forensic extractions. And I was asked to obtain the raw forensic extractions. And
yeah, we already heard about this forensic extraction of raw data before the last hearing that we covered. Does it seem like it was, a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago or less?
In the motion to compel, I actually cut and paste the expert's explanation. I'm not going to try to paraphrase it. It's an explanation that he provided as to why it is his recommendation that we obtain the raw forensic extractions. That's what I did. I've requested that. It's taken, we're now at a month since I made that further request, and I believe that we're entitled to that. I think the rule provides that, and our intent in part is to verify the cell rights that the state has prepared. The only way to do that, according to our expert, is to obtain the raw extractions from the state. And that's why we're asking for that, Your Honor.
Ms. Kappelman, you may respond.
No objection, Your Honor. I would just ask that whatever reports are generated by their expert as a result of that data being re-Cellbrighted be provided to my office in a timely manner, because I'm advised, based on the version of the program and type of program they use to produce a report to verify our report, there could be some small differences involved. So I would like to not be surprised with that at trial.
Well, as to that, I will grant the defense's motion to compel. As to the issue of the
It's just really odd to me that you're having this kind of motion this close to trial. You're just 5 weeks away from trial, and you're still asking for discovery on digital stuff that you need to get back to your expert to have them review, and then you could have more motions after the fact. And so they're having a lot of lag here, and this should have been done months ago. So I don't know why defense counsel is this much behind the eight ball here, taking so much time. And but we see here the judge, he's definitely firm that he wants this trial going on as scheduled, starting with jury selection the 18th of August. But I'll talk some more about this conflict issue here.
conflict, specifically, Mr. Zellman, in part, when we had the first case management, I had counsel verify that they had no conflict as far as giving conflict-free representation to Mrs. Adelson. Should anything change with your review of these Cellbrights that may include communications from prior counsel or deal with matters that pertain to information that was provided by Charles Adelson.
Yeah. So I guarantee you there's going to be stuff in there. And what are they going to do to firewall it? How are you going to keep that away? Defense counsel can't look at it and say, okay, I'm not going to read the rest of that email from Charlie or from Daniel Rashbaum, his lawyer. So really, really strange. And the judge is rightfully concerned about this because he knows a conflict can derail this case. Just like it did her last trial. It got completely shut down. And she was without any lawyer. She had went from 3 lawyers to 0 lawyers. And she was ready to start the first day of trial. And keep in mind, she wasn't free on bond or anything. So she's been locked up in Leon County there the whole time, 20 months.
At that point, we are going to have to revisit the issue. Does everyone understand those?
Yes, sir. May I approach with a proposed order?
You may.
She's got chains around her waist, and also her legs are shackled with a chain in between them, and also her hands are.
Your Honor, just to advise the court, Mr. Corbett and the defense expert have been communicating over the last 18 hours or so.
Yeah, Anastasia, you're asking what happened in the investigation about her lawyers helping her and Harvey with phone calls, business as usual. I'm confused about that. I want to talk about that more as well. So I don't think we have all the ground truth on that yet. So we'll cover more of that here.
So that once that order was signed, Sergeant Corbett was going to upload that to a portal that they've already tested this morning. So that our expert can download it. That'll be the fastest way for them to do that. He said as soon as Sergeant Corbett indicated that as soon as he was given instructions to start the process, he would do so.
Right. As to the second motion, the extending of all deadlines for the defense. In particular, we've already had 2 extensions that have been provided by the court. First from the April 30th deadline, second from the May deadline. Does the defense have any motions that are unrelated to the new discovery?
And the new discovery is this issue about this supposed efforts to intimidate witnesses, including her own son, or put some kind of harm on her son. We just don't have a lot of details on that, but we'll talk about more of that here later tonight.
No, Your Honor. All right. As as to the motions that you believe you still need to file that are in some way related to this discovery, what is preventing these motions from being filed and you seeking leave to amend as necessary?
Your Honor, due to scheduling, we were only able to depose Mr. Newland and Sergeant Corbett Wednesday, Thursday. We are deposing Special Agent Pat Sanford, I believe, on this coming Tuesday. Before filing those motions, I think it's appropriate to make sure that there's a good faith basis to do so. And having those depositions, that testimony is, in my opinion, is necessary before we can do that.
Right? And I believe there are some other depositions that are scheduled for July or I believe next week as well.
Yes, sir, we have them on Monday as well, maybe Tuesday and Thursday.
She's not even standing
Part
up.
of the reason that we have
Jackie Fulford isn't standing up. I guess you're allowed in Florida, like some other states. If you don't feel like standing up, you don't have to. But she's been really quiet lately. I think there could be a reason for that.
whether it be discovery or any sort of deadline cutoffs in any case, is not simply arbitrary of the judge just saying, get it done by a certain date. It is so we can proceed orderly to trial. I believe your proposed dates were to within 4 weeks of when you believe the state has fulfilled its obligation, that's when you would want to file your motions.
Well, Your Honor, given that we filed these on June 27th, we're obviously 2 weeks past that.
Oh, yes, we are.
And it's certainly not our intent to do anything to delay the
Yeah, it is late in the game to be doing depositions, but there's new evidence, and the prosecution is going to bring it in. We'll talk about the prosecution witness list here, and there's some other angles they want to take about what Donna was doing to manipulate evidence, obstruct justice, in other words.
commencement of the trial as scheduled.
The proposed date of when this would occur is not specific. It's not certain. It's pretty much a moving piece of jello.
Moving piece of jello, there it is.
Is there anything that you...
If you notice the thumbnail that got added late here, it's a piece of jello with a target on it. And that's what the judge is saying about when are we going to have this finalized? What's date are you going to be able to know that your experts reviewed the data? You're going to know if there's any motions to be filed and all that. So you can set dates, but they're sort of meaningless because you have unknown data, unknown ability of your experts to get it done on a timely basis. You then got to research whatever issues you can come up with, create a motion. You got to write motion or motions. Got to ask the judge for a hearing, and I mean you're 5 weeks away from a trial, so this is really bizarre.
you can do to convince me that it's otherwise going to be a specific date and what you're asking to do.
The judge just sounds exasperated. I think anything with Adelson's he knows is somehow going to be messed up, contaminated, corrupted. Something squirrely's going on, and he got tricked by Rashbaum, and I'm sure he's feeling like, what are these guys getting set up for? Because you know what, the money thing was what really messed up this case. Because lawyers, if you got millions of dollars in the bank and you're not a criminal defendant, lawyers will do a lot of stuff to advocate on your behalf and come up with different ways to do stuff that's going to run up the billable hours or set a real high flat fee. And so I just think that they're doing a lot of motions that are going through a lot of efforts to defend her in one hand, but on the other hand, are they the type of lawyers that could sit her down and say, look, you know what? Do you understand? It's not a Tallahassee problem. It's an evidence problem. And the evidence against you is overwhelming. You're not going to win in Tallahassee. You're not going to win in Miami. You're not going to win in Pensacola, surely, and you're not going to win down there in Daytona Beach either. So do you want to cut a deal? Because we're going to fight like like mad for you, but you know what? You're going down, Donna. So I hate to tell it to you this way, but this whole extortion thing and your son getting you roped in and the way you came across on wiretaps, you look overwhelmingly guilty. The way you sound and act on those tapes, the way you try to flee the country, they got you nailed dead to rights so many different ways from Sunday. You need to start thinking seriously about is there any kind of deal that would be appealing to you where you could maybe get out and live your final days behind away from being behind bars? So I don't know that that really happens when you got a criminal defendant with a lot of money and they can hire experts and they can hire multiple lawyers. She already paid Rashbaum. Charlie already paid Rashbaum. Rashbaum probably made 1.5 million between the two of them. It's just my rough guess. And now she probably paid another 1 point something million between these two lawyers here. These are local attorneys. So, and then we got this issue about other witnesses were sought out to try to do stuff to obstruct justice on their testimony or impact the testimony of other witnesses that are against you, like Katie McBanwell and your other son, Dr. Rob Adelson. So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on here, and yeah, I do think there's a lot of stuff that I think hasn't come out to light yet that's going to become unraveled here before too long.
With filing these motions several weeks after you believe the state has complied?
Unfortunately, it has been a moving target because we have not received all of the discovery from the state. During the depositions, during yesterday's deposition, we learned that he had conducted call frequency analysis between Donna Adelson and Charlie Adelson for a longer period of time than that had been previously disclosed. He is going to send us that if he had completed a report. It has been a moving target because we have not received all of the discovery from the state. During the depositions,
And the discovery is because your client keeps committing more crimes. That's what's going on here. It's not the prosecutor's fault that your client's committing more crimes and is doing stuff to indicate guilt, trying to get people to lie in court to help her defense. That's not something innocent people do. So the prosecution surely going to call witnesses that she tried to buy off to say whatever or do whatever to interfere, however. So we don't have a lot of details on that, but
during yesterday's deposition, we learned that he had conducted call frequency analysis between Donna Adelson and Charlie Adelson for a longer period of time than that had been previously disclosed. He is going to send us that if he had completed a report.
So there's more out there than what they were disclosed previously. Okay, well, that's good to know.
He's also sending us the PDFs of the actual call frequency analysis that is contained in the demonstrative, because those are just excerpts of the call frequency analysis. So he's going to be sending us the completed call frequency analysis. So I say that to demonstrate that it is difficult for the defense to file any appropriate motions or to provide appropriate.
Yeah, when you don't have all discovery there. I get that. Tell your client to quit committing crimes behind bars. How about that for starters?
Great responsive either demonstratives or exhibits when we still have not received everything from the state.
At the same time, to file, and how many motions are we talking about at this point?
Now, I'm joking about that. The judge wasn't going to say that, but anyway, I'm just that's just really what's going on. I bet you that if I was a judge, that's what I'd be thinking. I'd be wanting to say it, but of course, that's not something a judge is going to say. So anyway.
Potentially 3, Your Honor.
As to these three motions, would any of them affect the ability to actually move forward with the trial on August 19th?
The judge wants.
No, I don't believe so. None of them are
I don't believe so. So everything's wiggle room. I believe this. I don't think that. Yeah, you don't know. You haven't seen the raw data yet.
positive.
Very well. Do you have any further argument in support of your motion?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Kappelman.
No objection, Your Honor. We've just asked that we be given the same grace. I'm aware of at least one or two more things that the state intends to do that could, need to be done past the deadline. So all indications are that both sides are working diligently to get this done. I understand your comment about the Jell-O, and I've got a couple orders myself of Jell-O that I'm wrangling. So
Now, if I was a prosecutor, I'd be saying, Your Honor, the only reason we have discovery problems is because we got information that Donna Adelson is trying to obstruct justice behind the walls there. So I would definitely say that as a prosecutor. But
I'm trying to minimize it, but things do come up past the deadline, so we're going to have to work
Ms.
through those
Kappelman
things.
specifically asked these emails, which has contributed to this. What is it else that you believe is going to come up on the state's behalf?
The emails?
I said, other than the emails,
Oh,
what do
what
you
do I
think is
think
going
is
to
going to
come up
come
on the
up?
state's
There's a
behalf?
defense witness that's been listed that the state has discussed trying to depose and may try to get that done before the deadline. There's a handwriting expert that the defense is aware of, that a handwriting expert exists, but they haven't been given the name or the report yet. I don't have the report yet. So that's something that's pending that would be in violation of Your Honor's order. So there are a couple outstanding issues that I'm aware of. I was not aware of the issue that the defense just brought up regarding Corbett having done a report, but he does.
how would you not know that? Were you not part of the deposition? Did not get reported to you?
Do work to generate the slides that were prepared and discovered by the discovery deadline. When asked about how did you come to those conclusions in deposition, he's going to say, I looked at the data. Well, they want to see that data. Okay, we don't object to that, but I don't think that's the same thing as a discovery violation.
The final pretrial hearing is August 8th.
Yeah, there wasn't any data discussed in the previous trials at all. So that's all new for this trial here.
As to the date of when all motions need to be filed, so we can have a meaningful hearing on August 8th and proceed to an orderly trial on the merits. These motions are going to need to be filed by July 21st. Any motion that is not filed by either the state or the defense by that.
That's 21 day. That 21 July. So actually, that's 21 July. Wow, that's even less than I thought. It's 10 days from now. So they got to get all the raw data to the expert for the defense. The expert has to do their report, provide the report to the defense lawyers, and then defense lawyers have to write up their motion. So that's really boxing them in here. But the judge means business.
That date, the issues are subject to being deemed as waived.
He's telling them, look, you're waiving any issues that you have that you think are legitimate motions. If you don't file it by the 21st, it's you waive that issue. So
if you need to seek leave to amend as to the specific motions that will be filed on this date, you may certainly do so.
So if they need to ask for an amended timeline other than the 21st, they need to ask permission to be able to do something. They'll have to explain why they can't meet the 21 July deadline and when they can get it in if it's not the 21st. So,
however, again, this is not just arbitrary date making to throw something out. If we are going to, in fact, have a trial on the merits that will be orderly, both parties needed to see what you intend to raise as pretrial legal issues that the court needs to rule upon. There's not going to be a trial by surprise, either for the state or for the defense.
This judge is totally neutral. He's not like what we've seen in anything like we've seen in the Massachusetts case there. So this guy's going to call it like he sees it. I don't always agree with him, but most of his rulings they're right on target with the Constitution and legal requirements to ensure a fair trial for the defendant.
I'm making myself clear.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Will you state those dates one more time? Motions to be filed by July 21st and final motion hearings on August 8th. Is that correct?
The final pretrial hearing is on August 8th. This time is already.
See, this judge means business. He's not asking, does this date work for you? You got any conflicts with this? You doing anything that day? No, he's just saying, this is when it is, okay? I'm saying we're going to have it then. I don't care what else you have. There's a murder case starting on 19 August. Anything else you have that could be interfering with that date, move it out of the way, because I'm not asking for your inputs on this date. We will have it at that time, that deadline, and any hearing we have on the 8th will happen on the 8th.
Been set apart by a previous order. As to the motions in limine that have been filed, I believe the defense has renewed its motion concerning the Latin Kings. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has the state filed any motion in limine by the previous deadline?
All right, so let me go show you that. Well, I'll wait till the end to show you that motion in limine.
We renewed motions that were filed previously. There's nothing new.
Well, as previously ordered, copies of all of these motions.
This looks like courtroom 3 that Charlie was tried and convicted in, and it's got to be really an eerie feeling for Donna to be sitting there in the exact same place Charlie was when he was convicted over 20 months ago.
When they are filed, they need to be served upon the court. Please do so if you've not already done that regarding what has already been filed.
When my brother John and I were down there, he was there for a lot longer than I was. I just went in for the closing arguments and waited for the jury verdict. And the judge, he would joke around and stuff like that. But after this whole thing about the conflicted counsel being something that blew up in his face, he is not. I don't think I've ever seen him at all at one time joke around with any of the parties here, and I don't think he's going to really be joking around with the jury this next go around, because he doesn't trust the Adelsons and their lawyer teams, and nor should he, based on crazy stuff going on.
I believe the next date that we will have, unless there are other issues that need to be addressed, will be August 8th. Does either party have anything it needs to raise?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Can I have a moment, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
Fulfer does sort of look like Donna. Different glasses, but for a second there. Yeah, that's true. They've tried to get the judge kicked off the case. They even took it to the Court of Appeals to try to get this judge kicked off the case because he was authorizing search warrants. They said that was a conflict, but it's not. They want to get rid of this judge, and they want to get this case out of Tallahassee.
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Well, we are in recess for this afternoon.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The fact that they're trying to get the judge kicked off the case, a judge who's totally neutral, didn't do anything wrong. He had some search warrants presented to him, and those do not make him conflicted. He's just doing what he's supposed to do, even though it's ex parte, meaning the defense attorneys were not there when he's ruling on this. That's never a requirement for defense attorneys to be there when a criminal defendant's property is about to be searched or seized, and a judge is authorizing probable cause, a warrant, and a search warrant for whatever the case may be. So in this particular case, I think it's a matter of they're just grasping at straws. So it makes me just wonder, are they the kind of attorneys that are going to have that tough conversation, like I was saying with Donna, saying, look, we got to try to cut a deal here. This is if you want to try to get out in 5 or 7 years or something, you're 75 now. You really want to risk rolling dice and going down on murder one charges? You're gonna have to flip on other family members, though. That's the dilemma I'm sure you're having. You're gonna have to basically admit involvement in the murder of your ex-son-in-law, your grandson's father. So anyway, what's most important to you, Donna?
You can, yeah, go ahead. What's that?
Yep.
It's good to file as
That looks
is.
nothing like Donna Adelson at the airport. She said
enjoy
she's
your
in a
holiday,
third of her
Judge?
body weight. But
The
car
weather was good in
And nasty
both Maine
jail
and
food there
Canada.
at Leon
Could have
Point.
been cooler, but it was nice.
Yeah, that looks like courtroom 3. If it's not courtroom 3, it looked just like that. Okay, so next I want to show you. This motion here. This one is the defendant's renewed motion in limine. Defense here is requests the court to permit testimony concerning Luis Rivera, membership leadership with Latin Kings, and they're trying to say here that they recite that what Don is charged with. The state filed a motion in limine to exclude any mention of Luis Rivera's affiliation with Latin Kings. Luis Rivera previously testified in the trials of Sigfredo Garcia, the trigger, who was a trigger puller, and his girlfriend, Catherine McBanois, the retrial of Catherine McBanois, and the trial of Charlie Adelson. So he was a Latin Kings member who was best friends with the trigger puller, Sigfredo Garcia. So Sigfredo enlisted Luis Rivera to go with him all the way up to Tallahassee to do the murder. The state contends that the mission of Mr. Rivera's membership and leadership in Latin Kings will only serve as inadmissible character evidence that will taint the jury's perception of Mr. Rivera's testimony. By allowing Rivera to testify as to his membership and leadership in Latin Kings, Ms. Adelson is not seeking to admit inadmissible character evidence. The defense agrees with the state that Mr. Rivera's gang affiliation is not intended to prove or disprove a material fact of the case, but is not being offered by Ms. Adelson for that purpose. Instead, this evidence is offered to illustrate Ms. Adelson's state of mind as it relates to dangerousness of the individual who committed the murder for hire of her former son-in-law. Additionally, the significance of evidence is emphasized by the state and FBI's investigation itself, as they intentionally exploited the believed role of Latin Kings when conducting the bump. Retired FBI agent, I didn't know he was retired, Special Agent Oscar Jimenez testified, my role in that operation, I was portraying a Latin King gang member, and I was instructed to conduct the bump. He never told Donna that, though, right? So when he did the bump, intercepting Donna on the street there, he never told her he's a Latin King member, gang member. So, and you know what? This never came up beforehand. They didn't know ever that Luis Rivera was a Latin King member for multiple years. So this is all contrived stuff that Donna's trying to come up with. So the state is wanting to keep it out so she can't say, oh yeah, I knew his Latin King member because he said he was, and that's why I was fearful and did whatever I was trying to do to help my son, but I have no involvement in whatever my son did if she's going to try to come up with that defense. But I just think if he's a gang member, it should come out. There's nothing here that the state should be trying to hide the ball on. So in this particular case, I think that like the state did that motion to suppress in Charlie's trial, and the judge granted it for the defense to have the fact that he's a Latin King member come out in court. And the same thing should be happen here. They shouldn't be able to make this guy look like he's some kind of a non-violent, non-career Latin King. I mean, he's been doing Latin King business his whole life, pretty much. So that can conjure up some pretty scary things. And I understand that's why the defense wants to do it, but the state can rebut it, the fact that she didn't ever claim this was a fact of Latin Kings. There was nothing ever said by Charlie that this was Latin Kings. Katie never said it was Latin Kings. And so anyway, Katie never even told Charlie that it was that Luis Rivera was involved in this thing at all. And Charlie never said, "Yeah, go find multiple folks to go up there and kill Professor Markel." He only thought the one was doing it, Sigfredo Garcia. So this Luis Rivera, they didn't even know he was in play. And so when the bump happened, they're like, and when you knew what they were talking about, and you could hear what they're talking about at the Dolce Vita restaurant, when the FBI was eavesdropping in on conversations with Charlie and Katie McBanois, when he was freaking out trying to find out what's going on with this bump that he didn't know it was FBI bump or police bump or whether it was actually truly somebody that's affiliated with the hitman. So Katie was just plain stupid. She never told him, "Hey, look, did you know that Sigfredo also had his best friend Luis Rivera go up there and he's a Latin King gang member?" She never told them that. So they found that out years later, probably when it came out, when they got arrested in 2016. And when was that? March of 2016. So the murder happened in July of 2014. So it went on a couple years. So this whole thing about when they're paying the money and until they got arrested is just absolutely a joke. It's not going to be credible in court. I'm not even going to cover the legal analysis for the state of mind, all that. She had no state of mind as a Latin King member because they didn't know who he was. It never came out who he was. So anyway, all right, let's go through the witness list here now. I do want to check something here first. Stand by. Okay, so let's go through this witness list here. I'm going to make this larger. Okay, so the first one we see Brittany Adams. We can see SAO, State Attorney's Office, investigator with the State Attorney's Office. I don't recall her from any of the other trials, so apparently she's new, and maybe she's the one that did this new investigation involving the supposed misconduct by Donna trying to obstruct justice from jail, I should say. Then, of course, we know who Charlie Adelson is. That's former dentist, periodontist type, son of Don Adelson, who's now up in South Dakota State Prison because he had too many threats on him here in the Florida prison system. So he had to do a on-air swap and bring him up to South Dakota, where they've had some violent uprisings in the South Dakota State Pen, where he's at, in the actual wing that he's in. And then we have Rob Adelson. That's an honorable doctor. I don't know why they didn't put doctor in front of his name, but he's the oldest child, I should say, of Harvey and Donna Adelson. He's up in the Northeast, running a thriving practice, high character guy, nothing like these other Florida Adelsons. And he's going to be able to put some testimony on the weird mannerisms of how the Adelsons of Florida acted about the death of Professor Markell. Then, of course, we have Wendy Adelson. You can see on YouTube she's testified multiple times. Each time somebody gets convicted, she's the main benefactor of this. She's an unindicted co-conspirator, according to the state. And there's sufficient evidence that she should have been arrested and charged a long time ago, but they're really slow moving out on this kind of case here. And the state attorney's office there, led by Jack Campbell. Next, we have Sergeant Sherry Bennett, Tallahassee Police Department. I don't recall her name either, but maybe she's one of the ones that's also part of this new investigation. Then we have this Drina Bernhardt. She's a 40-year-old. Let's see. No, now she's about 40, around 40, mid 40s. And I saw one time that she was listed on the news there as a missing endangered person. She's about 5 feet tall. And supposedly she was in the jail there. And that's the one that's going to testify, I believe, as to what Donna was trying to get her to do to help her out, to come up with some testimony, to try to counter the state's evidence. So next we have Officer Bill Brannon. He previously testified he saw a van matching the description of a vehicle driven by Wendy Adelson at the crime scene the day Professor Markell was shot. Next, we have Special Agent Greg Bronstein, one of two special FBI agents who recorded Charlie Adelson and Catherine McBanwell at the Dolce Vita restaurant. Patricia Bird, I don't recall what her involvement was. Number 10, Justin Carson. He is also an FBI special agent. Not sure of his background and involvement on this case. Maybe something to do with the recording along with the Bronstein guy. All right, next we have number 12, Sergeant Chris Corbett. This guy is phenomenal. He's like if you haven't seen him testify before, I mean, he really covers all the location extraction data from phones and shows where all the Adelsons were moving around with their phones and their vehicles and whatnot. Really puts forth damning testimony on Charlie and how the hitmen went down and how they're able to locate their whereabouts through also messages as well. We haven't seen Snapchat or WhatsApp messages yet. I don't believe they tried to get those at the time, but they did have some emails and text messages among the conspirators that were brought forth last time by this really high-speed expert witness. All right, then in 13, we have an investigator with the U.S. Fire Marshal's Office, Brock Dietz. He analyzed and clarified video of the cars driven by Professor Markell and Garcia and Rivera as they followed him from the Premier Gym down Thomasville Road to his house. The video came from Star Metro buses and security cameras around the gym. And then number 14 is Michael Dillmore, a Tallahassee Police Department digital forensic investigator who analyzed Garcia's cell phone. Then we have Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's a former friend of Charlie Adelson. He testified in Charlie's trial. And they had some talks. There's some information on conversation he had with Charlie that actually was more incriminating what they brought out at trial. They could have some more details about their relationship, but there's a falling out over some kind of money scam, and so he's on bad terms with Charlie now. But some kind of bad character evidence. I can't remember the specifics about that, but he was he definitely made Charlie look bad from what he testified last trial. I can't remember exactly what he said. Can anybody help out with that? things that Charlie said anyway. Something Charlie said that made him look bad. I think they also talked about Vietnam, about fleeing the country of Vietnam, and I think he even told him, "Look, you should leave to Vietnam because if they decide to arrest you, it may be too late, and you'll never bond out." So I think that was some of the conversation, but that he said, what actually he said in court, I can't remember those details, but I remember the defense counsel was trying to imply he was lying about everything. All right, next we have Sigfredo Garcia. He's the trigger puller. He's not indicated he wants to cooperate, but now that Katie's appeal has been denied at the first level and hasn't gone up to the Supreme Court of Florida yet, but they have Sigfredo in case he wants to flip. They put him on a notice there, and I don't believe the defense has done any efforts to depose him. And there's no indication that I've seen that he wants to cooperate and be state's with evidence like Katie has. But if another super dumb defendant that won't do the right thing to help himself, he's facing life without parole. He's never going to get the case overturned on appeal. The only chance he has of getting out someday is if he becomes a witness for the state and they try to shave off the life without parole aspect. But he may not know enough to even help him. So I don't think they want abusing him. Then we have Jim Geiger. He's the next door neighbor. He's the one that called 911 when he heard what sounded like gunshots. He went over there and watched, looked in the driveway and looked in the garage and saw something was wrong with, it looked like Professor Markel's and he needed urgent medical attention. So really, he's also the one that could identify the vehicle that took off, which is a Prius. So he had really great testimony last time. Really sincere gentleman for the state. Sharon Geiger, that must be his wife also. We've not seen her testify before. Maybe she also saw the same thing he did. We're just not sure. Then we also have Detective Grossman, Jonathan Grossman, Miami PD. He's a homicide detective who backed up testimony by Rivera that during the hitman's drive to Tallahassee, Garcia accidentally shot a hole in the floorboard of the Prius because they found that Prius and they found the hole in the floorboard. Next, we have Corey Hale, a Tallahassee police detective who first interviewed Lacasse. On the stand last year, Lacasse said he was afraid for his safety, but reluctantly told detectives that they should look at Charlie Adelson as a suspect. I got a feeling about Charlie. Lacasse told investigators I had a bad feeling, and that bad feeling was spot on. All right, next we got Sergeant Corey Hale. I'm sorry, I think I messed that up. Okay, Sergeant Hale was one. All right, then next we have Mary Hull. Mary Hull was the forensic experts for the state. She testified to all the financial dealings and records of the Adelsons. She was a really good witness, the way she described all that. Next, we have Craig Isom. He's a retired Tallahassee police detective that did the interview with Wendy Adelson, and they did not use him last time, and not sure they're going to use him this time again. They want to use him for sure on Wendy's case. That's why they need to get moving out on that. Get those charges ready to go. All right, next we have Oscar Jimenez. He's a retired FBI agent. He's the one that did the bump with Wendy Adelson. Excuse me, Donna Adelson. Keep in mind, if you go to YouTube and just type in Donna Adelson bump, you'll see what he did. It's just probably about, 7 minutes is interaction with her. Next, we have Erica Johnson. She worked at the Adelson Institute. She testified last time and talked about she helped establish the fact that Katie McBamwa never worked there. And she never saw her around except, I think, as a patient once or twice. And then Tara Quas, she's the attorney for Katie McBamwa, one of them. So they're calling her, and I think that's a real gutsy, strong move. I like to see that. And I think that's going to come up. I think they're going to establish that the Adelsons were trying to coordinate with all these defense lawyers. Once they found out there was an arrest made, Jim Lewis, one of the attorneys for Charlie, was calling around to the McBanwell lawyers and to Katie, trying to let her know, do not cooperate. They don't have anything. Adelsons aren't talking. You shouldn't talk either. That kind of thing. We've seen that on YouTube. So that's going to be really embarrassing for her to be called as a witness. Next, we have Special Agent Brian Kendall with the FBI. Don't know his involvement. Don't recall if he testified last time. Then we also have a retired Tallahassee Police Department. Brian Kendall. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Brian Kendall's. Oh, I'm sorry. The next guy is 27. He's a forensic specialist. So maybe he'll talk about issues involving extraction of data from the phones, emails, that kind of thing. Maybe he's the one that recovered some of that stuff from Harvey and Donna's place. Then, of course, Jeff Lacasse. We all know him, who's been following the case. He's a professor there at Florida State University, and he was the one that was set up as the fall guy. He's the one that cracked the case open and explained that, you got to look at the Charlie Adelson. There's something really weird going on with his family. And they just looked at him as sort of like a scorned, jilted lover of Wendy and didn't take him seriously. But he's a brilliant guy and highly credible, extremely incredible. And he's the worst person that Wendy could have tried to set up as a fall guy for this. So if you knew the case, make sure you look at his previous testimony. Clarissa Libretto, she's somebody that worked 40 years there at the Adelson Institute, dental assistant. And she'll testify that she only saw Katie once as a patient, not as an employee there at the Adelson Institute. James Lewis, that's the lawyer I was talking about. We got him on, he's part of the wiretap. We was calling around trying to run interference for the Adelsons. Then we had Katie McBanwell. Of course, she testified last time. Finally, she admitted to having some involvement in this murder plot, and she also mentioned interactions she had with Charlie, and specifically the 18th of July. She was able to explain how she was told not to show up right away to see Charlie because he had to wait to have his parents stop by late at night. I think it was around 9:30 at night, and then she was able to show up later, and that's when she got paid. So it helps with the money drop of Harvey and Donna doing the money drop to Charlie before they headed up to Tallahassee. All right, then we have Frances McBanwell. That's a cousin of Katie, so I'm not sure exactly what they're going to establish with her. Maybe she can also corroborate certain things that Katie's saying. Then we also have Joanne Maltese, retired forensic specialist at the Talley Police Department. She processed and documented the crime scene. She collected samples from Professor Markel's car for DNA tests and processed the vehicle for fingerprints. And then we also have David Oscar Marcus, so what his full name is. He's also the attorney that was originally representing Charlie, and he was one that was resisting him being called as a witness in what was supposed to be the last trial for Donna before it all fell apart because she had conflicted counsel. And then next we also have, so he's going to be forced to testify and explain how the attorneys were trying to coordinate with the hitmen's lawyers. The Adelson lawyers are trying to coordinate with the hitmen's lawyers. So that's a very unique, aggressive move for the state to do. So I'm pleased to see that. Then Keith McElvin, he's the guy that does audio. Does forensic audio stuff. So maybe he did the enhancement of the Dolce Vita interception that the FBI did with Katie talking to Charlie. And then we also have Razi Neighbor. He's the owner of the now defunct Club Fate located inside the Gulfstream Casino in Hollandale Beach. Katie worked there for several months as a cocktail waitress. So he's going to also establish how Katie did not make the kind of money she was making after the murder happened. She made like $56,000 more that next year, according to records anyway. Okay, then we also had investigator Jason Newland. He's with the state attorney's office there. He's like the right-hand investigator for the prosecutors. And I don't believe he's probably going to testify in this case, but they have him listed. Waldo Nunez, he's a state trooper who worked for Comfort Rent-A-Car near the Miami airport at the time of the murder. He confirmed the rental agreement for the car rental that Garcia and Rivera used in their first of two trips to Tallahassee in June of 2014 to scout out the Markel's house. And the agreement was for local use only, but the killers were forced to return it after the GPS system pinged the rental company that the car was in Tallahassee. And then we also had Shodrick Nobles, who sold cocaine to the killers in Tallahassee and helped get auto parts after the bullet of Garcia was shot inside the Prius, puncturing the gas line, making the car inoperable. And Garcia was able to get it running again. Then we also had Dr. Jerome Obed. He was a dermatologist and Charlie's former roommate who employed Katie McBanwell in 2015 and 2016. So he can also talk about the lack of high income she was making at that time. All right, Francis is Katie's brother, says Sarah. So thank you for clarifying that. Next, we have 41 is Scott Radius. That's a guy that was a nightclub owner or something like that. He's the one that might have been the one that alerted law enforcement that Harvey and Donna were trying to flee the country. Then we have Donna Beth Ritchie. She's the Florida Department Law Enforcement. Don't know exactly what she's going to testify to. Luis Rivera, of course, he was a critical witness. He's a Latin Kings guy, and he's not a man of many words, but he is. I bet he would very much help sink the case here for the defense. He did a stare down with Charlie last trial. He never met Charlie, but he was the guy that kept on trying to mention to Segredo, it's like, are you sure you want to do this? Why don't we just rob Wendy or do something. Why do we got to kill somebody? So this Latin King guy that was like, why are we going up there just over some child custody thing? We're gonna kill somebody for this, and it's like he had more of a conscience. This Latin King guy, more of a conscience than the Florida Adelsons. All right, next we have Jessica Rodriguez and Marcia Rodriguez. Marcia is a retired Tallahassee Police Department digital forensic investigator who downloaded contents of Wendy's iPhone. It was an iPhone 4 back in 2014. Jessica Rodriguez, I think that was like a girlfriend of Katie or something like that. I can't remember the details about her. Then we have Carrie Rosanna. She's a Florida FDLE, which is the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, a crime lab analyst who conducted DNA tests on swabs. But there wasn't enough information there to make an identification from the murder scene there at Truscott Drive. 47 is Pat Sanford, FBI agent. He's been very involved in this case. He was there when Donna got arrested at the Miami airport. And then next we have Lisa Shelby. She's a professor of the FSU College of Social Work. Maybe she's going to just testify something to back up and give credibility to Professor Jeff Lacasse. Then 49, we have Stuart Schlazer, a music teacher, was on the phone with Professor Markell when he was shot. This Schlazer guy said that Markell told him to hold on because there was an unfamiliar person in his driveway, and then he heard a loud sound, and he never spoke another word to me, he said, and then he called 911 himself. So through that, we also know the exact time, as well as with the neighbor, the time of the shooting. Next, we have David Sims. He was a retired Tallahassee Police Department officer who was the first to arrive at Dan's house after the murder. He testified he found, I don't need to go into that. Next, we have Robert Schwartz, the Geek Squad worker who went to Wendy Adelson's house to fix the TV her brother had given her as a divorce present. Wendy testified last year that she had made the appointment, or that actually is more than like last year, but 2013. But her mom was very much involved in that appointment, so it also gave her an alibi for the morning of the murder, so that's very suspect. Next, we have Danny Tajero. He sued Harvey Adelson and one of his corporations in federal court for violating labor laws. Not sure what he's going to testify to here. 53 is Detective Josh Turner with the Leon County Sheriff's Office. Not sure his involvement. Maybe this is part of this new evidence about Donna and obstructing justice. Then we have June Unchaida. She's the former girlfriend of Charlie Adelson. She testified in the last trial. As well as Yendra Velasquez Mascaro. I think she worked at the Adelson Institute. That's how she was relevant. Then we have Sean Yao from the Tally Police Department, forensic supervisor, who testified in the 2019 trial and it demonstrated for jurors the gang-style way of holding and shooting a gun. Then we also have Stephen Webster. I guess I missed him. Stephen Webster, of course, the lawyer for Dan Markell. who was representing him aggressively and saying we had a winnable case against Wendy, hiding assets. And Wendy was looking at getting in trouble with her job as well. So he's very credible. And he testified last time. So the defense is trying to keep him out. Hopefully the judge will allow him to remain a witness. That'd be the right thing to do. And then Sarah Youssef, that's a friend of Wendy, former friend of Wendy, that talked about how Donna was acting strange and making a big deal that basically saying that Dan Markel was a jerk. Why people make such a big deal, like he's such a great guy, that kind of thing. All right, so that's it. What we have for witnesses. So it's a good list. I think that it's going to help establish all the elements for what they got charged. Of course, keep in mind this is not the exhibit list. We've already covered the exhibit list. So these witnesses can do serious damage. These are the witnesses that are going to help convict Donna Adelson. Let me look here for. Yeah, I think that's it for documents I want to present. Okay, that was it. Katie worked with Yendra at the title company. Okay, it was the title company then, so thank you. But here's the thing I'm concerned about. So in the title tonight, I mentioned that the conflict issue, I think that this whole issue of there was a phone, a cell phone, or an Apple Watch communication or something that an attorney for Donna Adelson was allowing something like that to be used by Donna to communicate with the outside world. And if there was some communication that happened that facilitated some kind of attempts to obstruct justice, that to me, if that happened, and I don't know if that happened, I'm saying if it happened, as we're hearing some allusions to, then I think that that's a conflict issue that can come back to bite the prosecution's effort to have conflict-free counsel for Donna Adelson. And I don't know, it just seems to me like I've heard about this. We're not really hearing a whole lot of details about it, but if it's true, I know that we've seen a lot less assertiveness of Jackie Fulford. That's one that supposedly had an Apple Watch. And I'm not seeing where that really came out in any court documents. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right now. And yeah, this is very much something that I can see coming back as being an issue, because if something is done as a lawyer and you're helping facilitate something bad for your client while they're pending a murder trial, you got to get off the case. You cannot be on the case. And so you had this previous conflict with Rashbaum, and if you had an attorney letting them use their phone, even if the attorney will just like hand their phone, here, you can use my Apple Watch and make some communication. I'm not going to look at who you're talking to. I'm not going to listen. I'm just going to be working on the file, your case file here, and I'm just going to put some headphones on or something. And John Smith, you're saying you think Zellman had the watch? I don't even know how you communicate through a watch. I don't do that kind of stuff. That's too much of stuff I don't know about. But how were they able to communicate? And if that was done to communicate with folks that were going to do something to conspire to obstruct justice at the direction of Don Adelson or Harvey Adelson or both of them, or however this might have happened, then I think that's a conflict. that needs to be rectified and addressed by the court and by the prosecution, but I don't think it's going to be addressed at all. If it's not going to be addressed, it's something that can have a spillover effect. The conflict would be that if Donna's accused of doing something to, as I'm calling it, just generically obstruct justice, and that happened in the presence of a lawyer in the jail cell there, then that can be something that has the appearance of impropriety that spills over to the lawyers. And if that happened, then the lawyer's credibility is compromised in their argument for Donna. And so therefore Donna doesn't have neutral, or I should say conflict-free counsel. The conflict is sort of like in their behavior. It's making their credibility before the jury less so. And as a result, it's something where she needs a clean break from compromised counsel. So I'm just saying that this needs to be fleshed out. And I don't know that if this really happened, I don't think the prosecution understands what they need to do to flesh it out, because I don't think they want to have the second team of lawyers be bounced off the case. So why are we hearing indications of this, but nothing else is being brought up in court directly? Yeah, I mean, why is Zellman doing all the talking? I mean, she mentioned, I guess, something this time shortly, but we're not seeing the same Jackie Fulford as we have previously. Laura R., you say the Tallahassee Gazette has Rob Adelson deposition question and answers before they were sealed. They printed it. All right, I've not seen that. If somebody could email that to me, I'd appreciate it. Obsidian, do I think they'll hammer Wendy on the stand, really pin her for some lies for perjury to bring all her statements? I don't think they're going to totally full bore against her, but if you notice from the previous times he testified to this last time, they really ratcheted up the pressure, and Wendy knew she got busted for lying multiple times. Previous time she testified, she thought she got away with it because Georgia didn't pin her down on enough stuff and bringing up enough details. They brought up the book as well, and now the defense has kept out the book. At least they have so far. The judge authorized or granted the motion in limine to keep out the book as direct evidence. He said it could be brought in under impeachment, but anyway, it should come in as direct, not any kind of impeachment. Yeah, I saw some questions about a filter team. Are they going to have a defense team be a filter team to make sure there's no conflicts of stuff? I don't know. I don't know how you have a filter team that's not going to somehow be caught up in this conflict as well. Are they part of the defense team? If they're part of the defense team, they're a conflict as well, but they're not. They're just reviewing documents. We're not going to discuss it. The stuff they select. I don't know. It just seems like a convoluted mess. All because the prosecution didn't object to conflicted counsel Rashbaum first representing Charlie and then first representing Donna. Carol Johansson, you think that Jackie Fulford's been markedly quieter since those allegations were put forth. And you're also talking about the allegation, I believe, an Apple Watch was actually what she used to call out in the PIN number. Why don't we have something more like that in a motion? Was there something that was sealed or whatever? Why do we know about this, but yet we don't know enough about it? Something's up. Something's fishy's up with the sudden difference of behavior by Fulford. That's my read. And Zellman looks very subdued as well. He doesn't look like fired up, ready to go. He doesn't look like very aggressive in court. He looks like this thing is like everything about this case is bad news to him, and he's just trying to muster up energy to face the court. He doesn't look like he's happy to be there at all. It looks like he's wishes he would never signed on to the case. That's my take on it anyway. What do you guys think? Yes, innuendo. I did see how much Brendan was paid. It's like $560,000. That's unreal. Unreal. To pay a guy that kind of money to go persecute Karen Reed. Let's see. So apparently it's mentioned in affidavit. Is that where we're getting this information about? Donna doing stuff behind the scenes, trying to obstruct justice. All right, Sam, I'm going to check my email. So I guess a quote from let's see, this is on Court TV. The quote from the article is Donna's attorney say that affidavits presented to the judge lied about the content of conversations between Donna and her husband and alleged that among the false allegations were accusations, quote, the defendant and her spouse were engaged in conversations by use of the undersigned cell phone / watch to plan harm to Robert Adelson, Catherine McBanwell, and the mother of a jailhouse snitch. Okay, that's I think the only extent of it we know here. So stand by here. Okay. Opening statements here. I didn't want to have to refer to this, but here we go. This is Court TV.
Welcome back. This morning, we're shining the spotlight on Mama Donna Adelson in her upcoming homicide trial, along with some surprising new developments in the case. So on Friday, there was a hearing that Court TV was not permitted to record. And we understand that Adelson appeared remotely as her attorneys asked the judge to grant that permission to re-depose several witnesses in the case. And this includes Donna's estranged son, Robert. That's right. There's another sibling besides Charlie and Wendy, Robert. Now, we learned that the newly discovered discovery that was disclosed by prosecutors involves wiretaps of conversations between a jailhouse informant and Donna's husband, Harvey. We haven't heard much about Harvey since Donna's arrest last year.
You're making a mistake. It's not a mistake. It's two mistakes. Can you take it off, please, Donna? I don't want to hurt you. Please.
There's Harvey there with the black hat.
Just no, it's good. Listen to me.
Yeah. I'll call.
Get him over. Go home.
I will.
Donna's defense team also alleges that the state of Florida made some false allegations in an affidavit that was presented to a judge, alleging that there was a plot to harm Robert Adelson, Catherine McBanawa, remember her, and the mother of a jailhouse snitch. So this is all starting to sound like a Lifetime movie, isn't it? But no, this is real life. So is the case shifting in any way to these other families?
All right, so that's what we saw from there. But where's that affidavit? Apparently that's sealed. I looked for the affidavit in court filings. I haven't found anything on the Leon County Clerk of Court website. Yeah, we did have Carol Marine, Mom, you're saying it's about Robin's son, his testimony. So that was a while back. I guess this goes back further than I thought then. I remember them wanting to redepose Rob Adelson, Dr. Rob Adelson. Mr. Tedrick Walker, do I think Donna's stalling as long as she can to stay out of prison, knowing jail is easier than prison? I don't think she's trying to do any of the stalling. I think it's her lawyers that are not really up to speed on how they need to be prepared for this. Tiffany Nicole, have ever seen a case this messy? No one could convince me they weren't allowing her to make calls. She and Charlie would go through Dan before it's proven in the calls. Yeah, if they're doing that, it really makes it a hot mess. And I think you got conflicted lawyers, which need to be removed if that's what they were doing. If they were really doing that, they should be removed. If they both knew about what's going on, this is happening, they both should be removed. But I don't think that's going to happen here. I don't think they understand this as a conflict. Especially since they're bringing witnesses that are apparently going to establish this obstruction attempt. As a matter of fact, I just don't see how they're going to get around Charlie's defense theory. No, I don't think they're going to be able to do that, however much they try. Even if they try to distance themselves from Charlie, it's not going to work. Maybe she's going to pull off a Kohlberger and plea when she can't get the defense she wants. You know, Kohlberger didn't have a lot of money to back him up. These guys paid a lot of money by Adelson's to represent Donna. So I just think when you have a lot of money that the defendant is able to pay, I think those tough, hard questions about, hey, we think you need to plea out on this and roll over on other folks. I just don't see that happening. If Donna was smart, she'd be saying, hey, you know what? Can you guys cut me a deal where I'm out in 5 or 10 years? Yeah, you're saying defense out there collecting free money. There is no case. Yeah, I mean, they sounds their defense. One of her defense attorneys, she was a firebrand before this Fulford. Now she's pretty much super quiet. And Zellman, he never had a lot to say in terms of having a booming voice or anything in the courtroom. He's very quiet, mousy, and he seems like a likable guy, Zellman. I don't think he's a kind of, he doesn't come across anyway as a shady kind of guy. And I think that in the end, if he's getting sucked in by something Fulford did, or if he'd allowed a phone, whoever, an attorney allowed her to use a phone, and if stuff's going down about that they got on wiretaps, I'm telling you, this looks really bad for the lawyers. And I think it's a matter of, I think it's a conflict. I think this is, yeah, sorry I showed Julie Grant. I wasn't planning on showing Julie Grant, but Melissa White, don't know about child visitation. I'm pretty confident they haven't visited Canada at all. And if there is any visitations, it's with Wendy right there, guarding every word that's said, making sure the boys don't get asked a question that might reveal something, or that the boys don't blurt something out. Linda Capture asking if the attorneys get in trouble, such as aiding Donna in alleged witness tampering by using her phone. You know, there's always a possibility something like that happening, but I'm not even going to think about that right now, because I want to see more of the evidence. That's something serious for a lawyer to get caught up in, and I don't want to even speculate on that this happened. The defense is saying it didn't happen, but what's the state got to prove it? If the state's saying it did happen, then if I was the state, I'd be moving to get these lawyers off the case. I think they're conflicted, a different type of conflict, but I think they're conflicted, and it's preventing Donna from having conflict-free counsel, which is a constitutional right under the federal U.S. Constitution. So I'm not worried about what happens to the lawyers if they did this. I'm just talking about, how do you get around this if you're the prosecutor and you know that these attorneys, or one or both supposedly, if you have information that their either phones or watches or whatever were used to communicate information that was obstructing justice, that looks really bad in terms of having that same defense lawyer or defense team, if depending on whether it's one or both, were involved in something like that. Yeah. Sir Tedrick, this trial needs to go to trial. Yeah, I mean, I can see maybe the state's like, you know what, whatever it is, we're just going to take it and go forward. We're not going to bring up the conflict issue. That's something that can be done on appeal. Liz Ponsgratz, you're saying Donna will have the same appellate lawyer as Charlie, and he'll be all over a conflict. You know, he wasn't all over the conflict on Charlie, so I don't know why that is. He reserved the right to raise that as a appellate issue later on down the road. Why wouldn't everything have to be raised now? Leslie B., you think Lazelman's way over his head? I mean, he's board certified in criminal law, but I just don't understand how this could happen, that you got more misconduct on the Donna Adelson, and somehow, if it happened that communication was made through lawyers' digital devices, that's just like really so beyond comprehension how that could happen. I gotta see that. Let me see the receipts they have, as they say. Elizabeth Banicki, Donna has no defense. Not a credible defense. I don't think so. This is going to be a slam dunk win. And if you looked at Charlie's trial, you look at these witnesses, it's going to be Charlie's trial 2.0. They just didn't have enough confidence that they could get Charlie convicted and his mom at the same trial. All right, stand by here. I want to check one other thing. Anyway, let's see here. Any last questions for tonight? It's almost midnight here. So we did see that. So we already had Newland and Corbett testify last week. We have a couple other witnesses for the state. They want to have them deposed as well. So the depositions haven't all happened yet. That's going to be next week. So that just gives it out 4 weeks before trial. That's not a lot of time. Apparently, they're just going to be talking about this new information based on Donna's alleged misconduct, orchestrating obstruction. John Smith, you're saying Zellman is also representing a Unabomber guy as well. I've not heard of that. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Tomorrow night, I plan on covering the rest, not the rest, but more of. It's probably going to be several parts of Wendy Adelson's interview with Detective Isom, because there's a lot of good detailed information there that they're going to be using. at her trial. So more to follow on that. So y'all have a safe Friday night, and be back tomorrow night. I'll be on probably earlier, probably 8:30, 8 or 8:30 tomorrow night Central Time here in the United States. So thanks for supporting the Markells. Justice for Dan Markel and his surviving family members. And we'll cover this again tomorrow night. And I also plan to do a Sunday night as well. So thanks for your support of this cause. Have a good night.